Hello everybody, this is Anyman reminding you that you have the power. Today we're going to be reading a forum response sent into my website, anyman.webs.com. This is from Loyal Sentinel, and he writes, where they write, I'm trying the RLS 8, and I just wanted to see if it was still alive, and how you got started, and what it was like getting started. Thank you, and you day. Take questions one at a time. Question of how to do RLSH movement. It's not that hard. You don't have to have a costume or a name or anything like that. All you need is the will to do good. All that other stuff comes later. Okay? People tend to glorify it like it's something you see in comic book. It's really not. All that stuff like alternate persona, code name, old superhero calls them gimmicks. All stuff will come from later, and it will come from who you are on the inside, what you stand for, what you believe in. If you want to be a real-life superhero, just do the best, do the most good you can, while you can. Some of the greatest superheroes that I have personally ever known were not known for their costumes or their names. Some of them are known for having served in the armed forces. Some of them were police, some of them were firefighters, some of them were EMTs. Some of them were doctors, teachers, lawyers. The point is to find a cause that speaks to you and work on it. And a lot of people think there's a thin line between a real-life superhero, as they're called, and real-life supervillains, as they call themselves. And there may be. One tends to accentuate the positive, while the other tends to accentuate the negative. But both are really working toward the same goal. And that is that they believe that doing things their way will make the world a better place. Let's see. You'll have to forgive me. This gets fogged up really easily. Let's see. Is the movement still alive? Yes, very much so. All over the world, there are thousands of people just like you and me who take to this movement in their own special ways, and sometimes they listen to the advice of those who have been there and done that, and sometimes they don't. There are also a lot of posers and fakes, and people who give bad advice. So you really have to watch out for that. You really have to scrutinize what you're paying attention to, and determine for yourself, does this make sense? Will it be beneficial to others? Does it fit with what I want to accomplish? But yeah, it's still alive and well. The reason you don't hear so much from people like Master Legend or Old Superhero or even Phantom Zero or any of the better names is, for one thing, move on to different forms of social media to get their messages out pretty frequent. In fact, one of them, who goes by the moniker of Superman, is currently setting up a project related to that. I won't go into details, but if you are interested, check out the unrealitylab.dtdns.net. Go into their forum page and sign up for the forums. Join the Tiny Chat, which is usually Saturdays around 2 p.m. Eastern. because Superman lives up in the Pennsylvania and New York area. Another reason that they don't talk a lot online is because their daily lives are very busy. Yet another reason is because their work outside of their daily lives, as well, is very busy. So a lot of them spend less time talking and more time doing, And that's ultimately the ideal. Sure, getting a message out is great. Doing something shows the message is even better. Next is the question of how I personally got started. It's pretty long, and I'll try to keep it simple, and without giving too much personal information, because it's not about me, it's about you. You have the power. You are the power. I've lived all over this country, met people from all over the world. I've experienced what it's like to live in all walks of life. And I'm just like anybody else. I have some dark spots in my past, and I try to improve on the person that I am on a regular basis. At first, I've always wanted to be someone who could help people. At first, I just wanted to be a superhero, as a kid. But it's kind of hard to do that when you don't have any superpowers, right? Nobody thinks superheroes are real. You can be pretty much anything you want to be, but people have to believe in it before they will acknowledge it. The next thing that came to mind was actually sort of a contingency plan at first. That was to be an ordained minister. I figured that way I could interact with people in the community, find out what they needed, and help them with it. When I was a teenager, I tried to join the army, and I washed out because of a medical condition that existed prior to my service. Or at least, little time I see to combat training. So clearly, apparently, being a soldier was the path that I was meant to take. Which is why you will never hear me claim to be a former soldier or a veteran of any kind. And it's also why I have so much to the end of my condition that made going into any other branch public service position, like police work or firefighting or anything like that, pretty close to impossible. And for a while I was trying to get indicated to become a detective, a private detective. But again, due to my condition and due to recently passed laws in my area, that was not an option. I could not get the licensing. I do have ordination with the nationally recognized, internationally recognized Christian organization. I am a certified chaplain, and I find that through these avenues, I'm able to do it. It's not murderous as, say, going out and kicking some Taliban or ISIS butt. It's not as awesome or lively as taking down criminals. But I do what I can. And sometimes people get a lot of benefit from it. As a Christian, one of the main sticking points for me is that all suffering originates from sin, and that sin is ultimately the result of pride. Well, from a modern perspective, pride seems to take the form of elitism. People trying to make themselves feel better about themselves because they feel like they're inadequate. So they try to compensate by pretending they're better than everybody else. And they'll do anything to hold on to that feeling of superiority, no matter who it hurts or how. I figured this was a very all-encompassing problem, the key problem, and that facing this problem would bring about the solution. The question came up as to what I could do. I'm just one man. No matter how well I become trained, no matter how much I study, I'll only be able to do what one man can do. And maybe sometimes I'll come up against someone who's better trained, or who's studied more, or who's even smarter than me. But there is something that I studied when I was studying psychology and propaganda and other methods of influence that really helped. And that was getting out the message. That's the most important thing, really. Getting a message out. You get the right message out, and other people will join up with you for your cause. Then it goes from having one person to having X number of people. And that's ultimately what my goal is. To help empower the people so that we can all fight against elitism and bring about a better world for all of us. What was it like for me starting out? It was kind of touch and go. Pretty comical, actually. When I first started out, I was living in an apartment complex, and I would patrol the area at night wearing a hoodie jacket. And I got stopped once by the cops. They asked me what was going on, so I played it down. I played it cool. I told them I like to go out for walks at night, and I figured why not patrol the area while I'm out for my walk. If anything happened, I told them I would be sure to give the police a call. They said, okay, just try not to scare people. I did actually scare a couple of people back into their apartments, inadvertently, of course. And then I realized this isn't really what I want. So future patrols ended up with me dressing in regular street clothes, which consisted of cargo pants and this one short-sleeved button-down shirt that had 4 pockets on it. And I would carry all kinds of stuff in those pockets. And I had a baseball cap to help conceal my face, Partly to keep safe, in case criminals were looking for retribution. So it's to keep others safe because they didn't know who to target. And partly because I wanted them to think that the average person had the capability to stop them. I wanted to drill that in their heads so that they would take greater and greater precautions, because in doing so, they would ultimately have to sacrifice more and more of the harmful nature of their crimes until eventually they just had to give up. They wouldn't be able to target any one person because they wouldn't know which one of any of the average people in the area had taken them down. I had been working with a man that I thought was a detective, who I thought knew some skills in covert operations that would help. This later turned out to be some greatly embellished and in some cases untrue claims. But he had convinced me that my final project in his private course would be taking on a human trafficking case. Fortunately for me, unfortunately for the area, there was a human trafficking case not too long ago where a man had gone to multiple states picking up women come to my small town and was basically pimping them out, keeping them high and using violence to keep them in line. So I went around to different hotels, pretended that my ride broke down, and that I was waiting for it to cool down so I could try starting it up again. I did call the cops on a few people who were causing trouble. No big deal. And then one time, I was caught by what I can only presume was an undercover sting operation looking to bust prostitutes. And I barely got away from them. I wasn't there to cause any trouble for people, I was just there looking out for people. But anyway, the point is, it was pretty rough. I had no idea what I was doing, and I was pretty much listening to people who didn't know what they were doing, rather than people who did. And it cost me. It could have cost me a lot. Fortunately, I got my head screwed on straight and came up with what I believe is a better way of doing things. I started putting out videos, getting information out there that might help people to handle matters personally in a more effective way. And I still do go out, keep my eyes open for trouble. It should come my way. More often than not, it's usually stuff like stalled cars, people who are broken down on the side of the road, that sort of thing. There was a time when I walked to the store and there was the threat of an altercation, so I stuck around to make sure everything was alright, and after about 30 minutes, nothing happened, so satisfied that nothing was wrong, I left. And there are times that I wish I could do more, but you can only do so much, as you never completely give up. That's the main thing. You can scale it back, you can take a break and go back to it. For a while I took a break because of my condition, and I was worried about the stigma it would bring to the community. But I was inspired to come back. You can think your strategy, but as long as you never quit, and as long as you never really make it about yourself where you're the star of the show, that's the main thing. For me, it is the guy under this mask, as far as I'm concerned, does not exist. At least not as the guy wearing the mask. This is just to hide whoever may be underneath. I choose to be a symbol of anonymity so that other people can get the feeling that it could be anybody under the mask. Any ordinary person. It can be them under the mask. And when they feel like that, they start doing what's natural to people to do in times of adversity. They start doing what's right, no matter what the cost. And the more people do that, the harder it is for elitists to commit their atrocities. And that's my ultimate goal. A world of pure equality. And a world where everyone can benefit. Thanks for your questions. Keep them coming. This is Anyman, reminding you that you have and are the power. Anyone can be any man. Use it wisely and use it well.